This is the Bobby Ho Show, and this season of episodes features interviews from my new project called We Are Boss People. We Are Boss People is all about the new success, authentic and unapologetic. Stories of transitions, unique journeys, setbacks, and triumphs. For more, including the video from this episode, please visit wearebosspeople.com. And this episode features Bill Reid, a scholar, humanitarian, a leader in higher education and the public school system, and someone I'm proud to call a mentor. Mr. Reid shares his journey of service, including how he graduated from Georgetown Law School at age 40 when he was working full time and had a family. I really enjoyed hearing Mr. Reid talk about his wisdom on sharing daughters, and on marriage, and what he views what it means to be a success at this point in his life. I hope you enjoy.
He is a father, a husband, a grandfather, an educator, a mentor, and a truth teller. He's someone I've looked up to for the past 20 years and still go to for inspiration. He is Mr. William Reid, Bill Reid. Pleasure to see you. Good to see you. How you doing, Mr. Reid?
Robert, I'm blessed, man. Life is good.
And where are you joining us from today?
I live in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is about 25 miles south of D.C., Prince William County.
Okay. And how is your family doing? I know you have two beautiful daughters. And how many grandkids?
I've got 6 grandkids. Come August 8th, I will have been married 50 years.
50.
50.
Amazing.
50.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Oh, it's been a great run, man.
So I'm here today to talk to you about, marriage, about life, everything that we're used to chop it up about. But first, why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about your professional journey? Many of us who are probably watching know you from Georgetown University, but I know you had chapters before and after. Just take us through your journey.
I'll do the best I can and try to add some brevity to it. I started teaching in 1970 in Middletown, Connecticut. While working as a teacher in Middletown, teaching middle school students, I got a job as an outdoor educator for Wesleyan University Upward Bound program. And so I taught whitewater canoeing, rock climbing, backpacking skills, canoeing skills for 3 summers when I wasn't teaching. In 1973, I had an opportunity and I took a job at my first Jesuit university, which was Fairfield University in Connecticut. And I was the Upward Bound director there from 73 to 80. Mm-hmm. And all of the jobs that I've had, and I'm digressing a bit, have been related to service to students, whether teaching inner city kids to endure the hardships of backpacking when they're from the city and they're taken to the mountains, or when I was an Upward Bound director, the long-term goal was to take or assist inner city kids in gaining entrance into post-secondary educational opportunities.
Now that service mindset, is that something that you always had in you, or how did that kind of value develop in your outlook?
I'm smiling, man, because I thought about that question early. Not unique to me, but there are people in our society, regardless of what jobs they may perform, which are called to service. Teachers provide a service. Medical physicians and medical assistants provide assistance. Certain assistance is directly related to human beings. Mm-hmm. So since I was a child, for some reason or another, my mindset was providing service. When I grew up, to become a teacher was something that was prized. It was linked close to being in my community, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a clergyman in that realm. And so for me, growing up, um, becoming a teacher seemed a possibility, and I gravitated in that direction. To go back now, if I may, when I left, my goal at Fairfield was to help inner city kids get into colleges, post-secondary educational opportunity with financial aid. So I was very successful in doing that. I'm still in touch with many students who I helped 40 years ago. If I call some names, which I will not, some of those students actually attended Georgetown, but I won't call their names because they have not given me permission to do that. When I left Fairfield in 1980, I went to another Jesuit college, St. Peter's College in Jersey City, New Jersey. There, I was the director of minority affairs, a small institution, but a Jesuit institution. And I was the first director of minority affairs there. Under me, I had a state-funded program called EOF, Educational Opportunity Fund Program. And then I got funding from the Geraldine R. Dodge program, a foundation to set up a high school to college program, which we call Precept. And the theory behind that, similar to Upward Bound, except using corporate funding, identify some students who show potential, take them through a series of programs over 4 or 5 years, academic year and summer, and enroll them into college. So I did that. Okay, again, creating a pipeline for inner city kids to college. When I left St. Peter's College in 1987, I came to Georgetown where I met you. And I was there until 97. Got my law degree, had hopes of doing X, ended up doing some other things, moved back into education. I had degrees sufficient to become an administrator. However, at the time, I didn't have the credibility in actually teaching because I'd only taught for 3 years. So I had to start at the bottom to teach. And I taught for 2 years, then I became an assistant principal, left there, became a principal. I was a principal for several years at one of the larger middle schools here in Prince William County. We are the second largest school division in the state. When I left the principalship, I became head of the Office of Equity and Compliance. And my job there was to mediate and to deal with issues related to equity, related to compliance. And then when I finished that in 2010, I retired, and I consult continuously for the Prince William County Public Schools. So that's it.
Well, that's an amazing story. I'm curious, how old were you when you started law school at Georgetown, and how old were you when you finished?
I was 40 years old, and I had to go at night. So it's 4 years at night. So I was 44 when I finished.
And when you were doing that, was there ever thought in your mind that, I don't need to do this? Or what pushed you at that moment in your life to go ahead and pursue a law degree?
Good question. And I've got an answer for you. As you know, at Georgetown, depending upon your level, as an administrator or an employee, people will listen, but whether or not they really listen is a question. Well, I had a bachelor's and a master's, but I didn't have a PhD, I didn't have an MD, I didn't have a JD. So my thinking was this: I can spend the rest of my life, trying to take these courses for a PhD and then write that paper, which is an original thought that sometimes people never complete. In other words, ABD, all but dissertation. I didn't think that I could cut the mustard at the time to be a doctor, meaning a medical doctor. But I saw law school as being a possibility, given the people around me who had succeeded in law school, who were also comrades at Georgetown one way or another. So I took the leap. And the bottom line is I persevered and I graduated.
That's an amazing story. And I know just before we started, you were encouraging me now that I'm in some point in my 40s, that it's still an early chapter. So, that
You
part of it
haven't
is
done
just
a lot yet. There's much more to be done.
love
And
it.
you've got a
Love it.
lot of life left in you.
And then it's curious, you were talking about Georgetown, and it's one of the things that I know I wanted to talk to you about, because on the one hand, it sounds like that your values lined with the Jesuit philosophy of service and of
Service.
education and giving back. I'd say, there are lots of different experiences at Georgetown. I know your door was always open, especially to a lot of students who were, I don't want to say that we had a challenging time, but it was an adjustment. It was you were there as an open ear. My wife said, "Well, who are you talking to now?" In this one, I said, "Oh, I'm talking to Mr. Reid. He was my mentor." And, well, what did he do? I said, "He did a lot of things. I can tell you what the office did, but more than anything, he was a listening ear to anybody and everybody, and your door is always open." So I know you heard a lot of things, and I know that from your perspective, you saw the good, the bad, and ugly from Georgetown. I'm just curious, from your perspective, what did you see during your time there in terms of students adjusting, and what's your perspective on the ways that sort of students from different backgrounds adjust to higher education environments?
All right, let me try to answer that. And what I ask you to do is to bring me back if I ramble. Deal?
Deal.
All right. The first thing I want to say is that we've already established that I believed in my mind and in my heart that my duty was to provide service. Okay. So when I came to Georgetown in '87, I already knew what my job was to do. It was to provide service to students. I did not necessarily contemplate the broader picture because my focus was students. And again, I thought about this question. Your parents and all of the parents of students who attended Georgetown that I interacted with, or their grandparents, aunts, or uncles, sent them to Georgetown with the belief that someone was going to have their best interest. Now, I'm not saying that others did not, because I believe they did, but I know that I knew that I had to act as a parent away from your home, in loco parentis. In my mind, my job was to treat all of you as if you were my own, and you were my children. Even though many of you were, well, put it this way. When I came to Georgetown, I was 37. When you came to Georgetown a couple of years later, I was probably 40. All of us were kids, one way or the other, and growing together. That leads me to point number 2. What did I learn from you guys? Well, I learned to listen better. I learned to accept, which was very hard for me to do, that I didn't know everything, but that you guys knew quite a bit because you were experiencing it at a level that I was not. So I had to listen in order to get a sense of what you were experiencing. And that's the only way I could really understand it from your level was to listen to you. Now, I had my own stuff I had to deal with at my administrative level, but my job was to broker for you guys, okay? And the thing I love, man, is the fact that we were all there together and experienced a slice of life together. That can never, ever be taken from me as long as I live. I think that the students that I interface with, and many students, dealt with adolescent growing pains. I know what I'm talking about concept. What I'm saying is right. You're too old. Even Bill Reid at 37 or 40, you don't know what I'm talking about. And I had to deal with that. We had some good radical folks on the campus, man. I was talking to someone the other day, I'm not going to call his name, and he said, well, you told me I couldn't do this. And I said, well, I did. I said, but it was because I was concerned about you, and I didn't want you to fall into a trap. But we had great students, smart kids who wanted to make social change in the environment in which they were, for lack of a better word, found. You guys saw just as much at your level as I saw at my level. Okay? I dare say that it may have been harder for you guys than it was for me in many ways. Okay, because you had to deal with it, with the teachers, with the professors, with your classmates, and with the social change that you knew needed to take place that was taking place very slowly. Needless to say, I believe that most at Georgetown administrators and faculty wanted the best for its students, and for the most part, not in totality, believe that you should have been there. When I say you, the diverse student population. Right. Not all students understood that if they weren't minority. And that's what created and galvanized that entire minority population. And it's always been that case since the 70s. Okay, and it probably continues to be that way. I dare not say that maybe today, and I don't know it for certain, and it is not a global statement, it's needed more than ever to have that network of students and administrators, because things don't change. They just move to another level. And sometimes that level that they move to is camouflage, but the essence of the problem still exists.
Right. You know, I never got a chance to tell you this, but one of the lessons, you know, the expression that some things are taught and some things are caught. So one of the things that I caught from you that I know wasn't explicit is that I remember you took me to a meeting of administrators. I think it was about planning for an MLK celebration. And there were a number of people around the table and all representing different parts of the university. And I just sat back and watched. And as we left the meeting, you asked me, okay, so what did you see? And I didn't know what you meant by that. And then I just sort of, you know, I don't know if I maybe recapped the meeting. And then you kind of broke it down where you said, you kind of explained everyone's agenda and how they were moving in there and what they wanted. And that's not anything that they said explicitly, but you knew enough about how those meetings operated that you understood what they were saying when they weren't saying. And that was my first lesson in understanding that some of the things aren't even said, that you just have to listen, and how being an operator is just about understanding the angles. It's almost like, I don't know if you saw the HBO series Game of Thrones, but when that came on, I said, well, Bill Reid would have won Game of Thrones because he understood all the angles. So I want to thank you for that lesson.
Well, you know, I appreciate that, because I'm gonna add something to that, which might corroborate what you said. Two things. Age and experience allows you, and people talking, and repetition, and talk versus doing allows you to understand the code. One person at Georgetown said to me, and it's no one you would know, it's no one anyone seeing this would know, said, Bill Reid, you like to work the angles, don't you? And I was a little taken back for about 30 seconds. Then I said, hell, that's a compliment.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And you just said that. So, I mean, working the angles does not necessarily mean that you're working the angles in any other way but to succeed in what your goals are. And it doesn't mean that you are not conducting yourself in an ethical fashion. It just means that perhaps you recognize, as you said, the different operational goals and protocols that people execute and what they say to try to derail you from where you want to go.
I have a kind of a public policy question for you, because as you mentioned, after your experience at Georgetown, a private four-year university that many consider to be an elite opportunity, you worked in the public schools of Virginia, right?
Correct.
And there you saw students of many different backgrounds, probably not all of whom probably had the same advantages as many Georgetown students. In today's environment, as an educator, as someone who believes in change, what would you love to see change in education policy today?
Thank you, Robert. Boy, you're on point today, Junior. Look, I'm going to try to be as succinct as I can. If I look at the state of America and American education today, the first thing I'm going to say is this. If a child or his parents or guardians agree that he or she should go to college, go, attend. Recognize that we are in a period in America of retrofitting. And in retrofitting, what we are getting ready, or what we've already started doing, is creating another class system. And that class system has at the top your top leadership for America. And that is predicated on who you know, where you went to college, and what you got to offer. There's another strata that coincides with the promotion, and I have no disregard for, I don't disapprove of it, going to community college and then scaffolding. Mm-hmm. Well, it's important where you attend college, just as it is important what you do with your college degree. We've got to look beyond the traditional career paths and look at some new stuff. We also have to worry about that group of kids who might not go to college. We need a strong vocational program throughout America that will prepare kids, if they choose not to go to college, to earn money, to offer productive services, to find a pipeline into the various guilds, okay? And to provide service where it counts. The electricians, the carpenters, the auto mechanics, you need to really be hip with a computer to even work on a car these days. Those careers are not careers that minority students look at or diverse students look at. My point is, keep going to college. We need everyone to get a degree. But if you're not inclined, we need to have a strong vocational pipeline to build the infrastructure that is eroding. So that's my thinking. And I hope I communicated it clearly. Everyone is not going to go to college. Everyone is not going to graduate from college. And a lot of people are not going to be productive citizens as a result of a college education. Okay? But we need productive people at all levels, because the system is only concerned primarily with one level. That's that top echelon. Mm-hmm. And that's that Ivy League group. And if you don't get out of that and find something positive to do for the people, you're going to be stuck in those ivory towers, and those people will be fine. But the masses are going to be in a whole different bag.
Now, I'm curious, your grandchildren are what ages now?
They range from 25 to 11.
And what is your message to them? If they say, I don't know what they call you, granddad, grandpa, papa. So when you're on the phone with them and you hear them talking about going through school, what is your message to them because my wife and I talk about this. We want our daughters to believe they can become anything they want. And at the same time, we also want them to have a sense of how the world operates. So I'm sure maybe they're a little bit younger, so you're not having, real world talk to them. But say one of them comes to you, when they're 16 and 17, and they're trying to figure out whether they should take time off from college or strive for an Ivy League school or take a lot of debt on in order to reach that status symbol. What would you tell your grandkids?
All right, I've got three sets, so to speak. I've got the 25 to 21. I've got the 15 to 13, and then I've got a 12 and an 11. All right. So with the 12 and 11, the bottom line is listen to your parents. You don't know it all. Listen. Okay, keep your grades up. Don't be disrespectful. For the 13 to 15, I've got a grandson that's a really good basketball player. Okay. And that's a euphemism, I guess, for black folks, but he's a good ball player and he has good genes. Okay, because his dad was a ball player. And he played in Europe, et cetera, et cetera. I tell Trey, don't get hung up on the fact that you're the only sophomore on the varsity squad and that you're averaging 16 points a game. I say keep doing what you're doing and make sure that you have a good reputation and good grades. Okay? Listen to your mom and papa and don't think that you know everything. Okay? To Julian, who's a little bit different, Julian plays the cello. He plays the cello, the upright bass, electric bass. He's a football player, he's a lacrosse player, and he's the honor society student. Julian, how you doing? What you want to do? On his bathroom mirror, he has written Yale University or Johns Hopkins. Okay, so that's what he looks at every day. He also has under there some athletic stuff, football, and then he's changed. He wanted to be an anesthesiologist. Then he decided that he likes theater, like you. And so now he's got theater. I just say, keep doing it. Keep dreaming. And, don't let people tell you what you can't do. When I was growing up, the guidance counselors didn't spend any time with me. I came from a lower socioeconomic background. My buddies and I talk about this all the time. They didn't even hip me to what college opportunities I might pursue. And my mother and father weren't college grads. Okay? I made a decision based upon some information and graduated. But they never wasted any time on me because I wasn't from that level. But if you dream, you can do everything you want to do, but you got to remain focused. You can change your dream, just be focused on a dream.
One of the Mr. Reid sayings that I love, that I can't wait to use on my kids, is about focus. You said you're in college. All you got to do is eat, sleep, and read.
You remember that? Yeah.
How can you forget it?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I use that quite a bit.
Now, you mentioned, to your grandkids, both keeping your dreams alive and being focused. And I said I wanted to talk to you about your parenting style, how you raised two independent daughters.
Right.
My wife and I, we have three daughters aged 9, 7, and 5. And so we find ourselves in between, some of the things that we learned from our parents and, both trying to parent each one individually and then also bridging kind of what expectations of daughters are versus what we know that they need to adjust to and how we want them to break out of, say, certain expectations. So did you have a certain philosophy in raising your daughters, or what was your approach?
Well, look, let me be honest, man. I worked and I had a philosophy. My wife gets all the credit, but one of the things that I will say is that, and I've seen it happen, I did not push academics so hard that they lost interest in academics. We simply suggested that, look, this is the way you need to behave. This is what you need to do. Okay. And we monitored them. The thing parents can't forget is that kids are kids, and we were kids. Just watch them. And if you can talk to them and they can talk to you, you'll get enough information to direct them, and they will feel comfortable in communicating with you. Andrea calls me up anytime to ask me what I think about something. And she's 47 years old. And it makes me so happy. Tanya will do it, but Andrea does it more. And it makes me so happy that I still have value to her. But I think an open line of communication, all the hugs you can give in your house, and holding them. Now, I don't believe in talking all the time, but that's y'all's generation, okay? Talk clearly when you talk.
Love it. Love it. And you said earlier that you've been married 50 years, 50. Congrats again.
August 8th of this year. I've got a couple of months to go.
I know there's no one secret to marriage, but if you have any marriage advice, I want to hear it.
I'll tell you, as soon as my first child was born, you'll appreciate this, Robert. I'm going back. When I got married in 1970, they had this picture on Time magazine of a silhouette of a black man. And they talked about, in the contents of the book, black men who had children but didn't take care of them. Well, I decided when I got married that I was going to take care of my kids, and they would know me before I ever left the home, if I were to leave. By the time they got to know me, nobody else wanted me, and I didn't want to go anywhere, okay? And they still don't know everything about me, so I'm not going anywhere.
Love it, love it. Now that you describe this stage of your life as retirement, but you're still contributing, you're still serving, what is your mission now? I know you definitely want to be there for your family and your grandkids, but what keeps you going every day now?
Seeing you guys being successful. I go on Facebook, I try not to talk, but I know all the names and all the stuff that folks are doing. And that's a beautiful thing for me to recognize that our paths crossed as we took this journey called life. My mother is 90, and so one of the things I do is, even though she doesn't live with me, I'm communicating with her and keeping my eye on her as much as possible. My goal now is to enjoy life, to read, and to stay in good physical shape. And let life take me where it wants to take me.
There it is. What are you reading now that you might recommend?
Oh, man. The latest book I started reading is called Brainwashed by a guy named Tom Burrell. Brainwashed by Tom Burrell. Let me show you something. You got a second?
Go ahead. Take us on a tour.
No. Look at these. You see all these books right here? Can you see them?
Yes, sir.
I got books all around me, man. So all I do is read. But that was the last book, and I'm reading just some fiction. Dan Brown's book on origins. Okay. And I also have something over here called Dark Money. And Dark Money is by a woman named Jane Mayer, Mayer. And then I've got The Threat by Andrew McCabe. So, I think books to me are like treasure. I might not get to read them all, but I got them everywhere you turn.
Well, I think you should post Mr. Reid's book list for all of us who want to keep up with
Well, look,
what's going on in your mind.
this is what you do. You come back to me on the down low, and I'll send you a list. Oh yeah, and I'm reading Blowout by Rachel Maddow. Okay, I think she's really, really good. I respect her as a journalist quite a bit.
And then one last question about your recommendations. I think you're a man with excellent taste in music. What are you listening to now to keep you calm, to keep you cool?
Well, you're funny. I am going to show you one thing. Stick with me. So earlier today, before you call, I was on this bicycle right here. You see this bike? You can barely see it. Wait a minute. Hold tight. I was on this bike right here. You see it?
Yes, I can see it.
And I was just spinning because I like to ride bikes. And I was listening to, you don't know these people, Weather Report. Look up a group called Weather Report. They're no longer around, but just listen to Weather Report. And who else was I listening to today? Probably Pat Metheny. And Weather Report. I'm an old jazz guy. So that's about it. You know, I listen to music, man. And when I was going to the gym 5 days a week, about 2 hours a day in the gym, but after this virus, I had to bring the gym to the house. And all I can do right now is ride this bicycle. I'll ride about 45 minutes to an hour on an indoor trainer and sweat, and then go on the couch and get a book.
You look great. Thank you for the tour of your life journey and of your home. One last question for all of your former students and people who've known you and been impacted by you. Any message these days for everyone who's just excited to see Mr. Reid?
My message is I love you all. And I wish God's abundant blessings or blessings in general on each of you, your family members, and those people you love.
Thank you, Mr. Reid, for your time. We love you. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you, Robert.
All right, take care now.
All right.